started in 2013 Sun 360. Sun 360 came up, Sun 360 was founded in 2013, and today I lead a group of 20 very talented individuals who are extremely passionate about technology and the environment with equal measure. Over the last 7 years, I have interacted with a lot of customers, and we've had a lot of questions that they've asked. We have today installed more than 600 kilowatts. We have today installed more than 600 kilowatts of solar plants all across Goa, across the length and breadth of Goa, both for industrial as well as for domestic customers. And installing all these plants, though we've become Goa's biggest solar power provider for the private sector, we've also got a lot of questions from our customers. When we analyzed all these questions, we realized that they pretty much fell into a few different buckets. And the idea today is to bust some of those myths that people have about solar technology, and to pave a way forward for people who are looking to adopt it. At the end of this webinar, I'm going to share with you a secret that not too many people know. So stay tuned till the end of the webinar, and I hope that will be extremely useful for you. So does that interest you? Can I have a thumbs up on your screen, please? You can use your reaction button to give me a thumbs up. Excellent, that's great. What we'll do is, in order to keep the flow going, you can post your questions on the chat box. Shruti, would you like to just give us short guidelines before we start off?
Sure, sir. I extend a warm welcome to all the participants. I'll quickly read out the rules for today's webinar. Please post your questions through comments in the chat box. Your questions will be taken up at the end of the seminar. It's most likely that all your questions would be addressed during the course of the webinar. So let's do a Q&A once we finish the presentation. Please provide your reactions through the reactions tab, a thumbs up or a clap symbol. Please feel free to participate in the polls. Please feel free to keep your video mode on so that we have an interactive session. Please mute your microphones so that there's no disturbance through the course of the webinar. You can unmute yourselves once we dive into the Q&A session. Without any further delay, we can now begin the webinar. Over to you, Anuj sir.
Thanks, Shruti. So how many of you all are looking forward to hearing about the secret at the end of the webinar? And how many of you all are looking forward to this webinar? Can we test the reaction button, please? Can you give me a thumbs up if you're ready to go? Superb, superb. All right. Okay, so I'm going to dive right into it. We are going to bust 7 myths. Okay. All right. The first one, a solar plant needs no customization. When I meet a few customers, they say, "Arey Baba, Pedro, how many kilowatts have you installed?" And then they tell me, "Okay, why don't you install the same plant that my neighbor Pedro has installed?" So we're just going to go through what we have come across as the typical objectives that a client may have. The first objective that the client could have is a reduced electricity bill. Okay, this could be that the person would have a very high electricity bill initially and wants to bring it down. The next objective that clients typically have is they want a longer power backup. They've faced issues in the past where power has gone for long hours at a stretch, and they want to extend that power backup using solar. And third and finally, the main objective, a lot of customers who have places that are off the grid completely, where electricity cables have not reached, they want to electrify their premises. So let me take an example of a very famous architect in Goa, architect Dean D'Cruz from Porvorim. He reached out to us and had a typical problem. He had an office space with an existing UPS and was getting very high electricity bills. He also had a space next to it, as you can see the other roof, where he also wanted to reduce his electricity bill. Now, over the last 3 years, architect Dean D'Cruz noticed that his electricity bills were increasing by 17% over the last 3 years. So he reached out to us for a solar plant and for a solution. He also wanted to make the entire facility a zero carbon entity. Okay, so we installed a solar plant that not only offset or made this particular office, the solar office, zero, but also the adjacent office, it lowered the electricity bill significantly. The solar plant also did one other thing. It insulated him from any future hike in tariff from the government. So tomorrow, even if the tariff goes from 5 rupees to 10 rupees or to 20 rupees, architect Dean is not impacted by the rise in the tariff. And finally, the plant reduced 7 tons of CO2 in the last 1 year, actually 11 months. And that's equivalent to planting 208 trees. So what is this magic system? There's no rocket science to it. It's a simple on-grid system. I'll explain it to you in very simple terms. You've got solar.
Anish, you're muted. Anish?
Anish, sir, you're muted. Can you please unmute yourself?
Yeah. Can you hear me now? Okay. So the solar panels basically generate electricity, and this first runs the loads, and only the surplus power is exported to the grid. All right. Now, this is when your load or your appliances are drawing less power than what you're generating. When your consumption is more than what you're generating, power is drawn both from the solar as well as from the government supply. So in this way, you first use the solar power and then only the deficient power is drawn from the grid. At night, of course, there's no solar generation, and therefore all the power is taken from the grid. So this is the way in which architect Dean D'Cruz was actually able to get a zero electricity bill on one of his premises, and using something known as a group metering system, wherein if 2 meters have the same name, you can offset the excess credits on the other meter. Now, another customer. This customer's name is Mr. Berman. He was the ex-director of DRDO. He has a villa in Sarauli, where he's got a lot of appliances, ACs, dishwashers, a lot of appliances, television sets, etc. So he had a very high consumption, and at the same time he had a few other problems. He wanted all his appliances or a lot of the critical appliances to run even when the power fails. he wanted obviously to have a much lower electricity bill than what he was getting currently. And he wanted to protect his equipment from voltage fluctuations, which is very prevalent in his area. So we installed something known as a hybrid system here, and that hybrid system ensured uninterrupted power supply 24/7. He's reduced his electricity bills to come onto a lower slab. So earlier he was consuming most of his power at 4.5, 5 rupees per unit. He's been able to bring that down to 2.5 rupees a unit. And most importantly, none of his expensive equipment has failed due to the power voltage fluctuations. Now, this is how a hybrid system works. It's very similar to an on-grid system or the earlier system that I showed you. The only difference is that in this case, it works exactly the same. The solar panels is first used to charge the batteries up. Once the batteries are fully charged, it will then power all the other appliances. Once the appliances are powered, if there is excess power, it will feed that back to the grid. Exactly similar to an on-grid system. The only introduction here is of the batteries. And the reason of the batteries is because in case there's a power failure, the on-grid system would completely shut down. But a hybrid system will ensure that the panels continue charging the batteries and the batteries power the critical loads in turn. The next system is, the next case is of a place called Sundowner. So this is a beautiful resort off, the coast of Palolem. It's on an island in Palolem. The owner is a German guy who basically wanted to set up an eco resort which was completely powered by solar. He also had no other option because it was on an island and did not have electricity lines going to it. He had STP plants, lighting, refrigerators, and we designed a small plant of 9 panels that was actually able to cater to all his loads on his resort. So his issue was he had no power supply. He was spending more than 45,000 rupees, 45,000 rupees on diesel a month. And even to make one milkshake, he needed to run his entire DG set, of 15 kVA. So that was getting really expensive for him. So we designed a system, as I said, a small 3 kilowatt solar power system that was coupled with his generator and has given him 24/7 power supply. As a result, his expenditure on diesel has come down from 45,000 rupees a month to just 7,500 rupees a month. And this is because the generator now runs only when the batteries are very, very low. So this is how the system works. As there is no power supply, the solar panels will charge the batteries and supply it to the appliances. Once the batteries are depleted or the level goes very low, the generator starts and powers the loads as well as charges the batteries. Once the battery is fully charged, the generator will shut down and the appliances will run on the battery. In this way, the consumption of diesel is reduced significantly and thereby bringing down the cost to operate for the customer. This kind of a system is very prevalent for farmhouses, for island resorts, etc. So we'll now launch a small poll. As I asked you, the myth was, the myth was, should we have a customized system or should we have a one size fits all system? So I'm launching a poll. I hope you can all see it. I would request you to vote whether a one size fits all is good or whether it needs to be customized. That's superb. We've got a lot of votes coming in. 31 votes. Okay. All right. So I'll end the polling now and I'll share the results with you. So as you can see, I mean, you're absolutely right. What works for your neighbor does not work for you. What works for somebody in Palolem does not work for you. So it is extremely important to customize it exactly as per your consumption, as per your needs. Okay, the next myth is return on investment on solar is not viable. Now, let me get into that one by one. I'll give you a case of a customer of ours who has a beautiful villa that overlooks the sea based in Taligaon. Okay, his name is Mr. Eddie Fernandez. Now he's installed a 5.8 kilowatt solar plant. This 5.8 kilowatt solar plant approximately costs around 3.8 lakh rupees. He pays a maintenance or incurs a maintenance cost of roughly around 7,000 rupees per annum. The system has reduced his electricity bill by roughly around 38,000 rupees per annum. And he's received a subsidy from the state government of 1.4 lakhs, 1,40,400. Okay. If you put all these numbers together, I've considered that the tariff will escalate by 5%. And I've also considered that the AMC would escalate by 5%. 5% is an inflationary number that I have taken up. So to account for inflation, this number has been taken up. Putting these two numbers together, Eddie recovers the cost of his system in 6.5 years. And because the plant has a warranty of 25 years, Eddie basically can run the plant free of cost. So he's got free power for the next 18.5 years. Isn't that amazing? Can I have a thumbs up if this is good? Well, it just gets better. Eddie received the subsidy, which a lot of our customers, more than 35 lakhs has been disbursed to our customers by the government. So I would like to ask you a question here. Before we move to the next section, I would like to know what is your average monthly bill? What's your average monthly bill? Is it less than 1,000 rupees? Is it between 1,000 to 2,500? Is it between 2,500 to 5,000? Or is it more than 5,000 rupees? Thirty-two responses in. I'm going to hold it for another 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Let me share the results. So most of you all have a bill between 1,000 to 2,500. That's somewhere in this 5 kilowatt range. Okay. For all of you above 2,500, this is a plant of slightly more than 5 kilowatts. So I will get into, the next. So how would you like if your bill of 1,000 to 2,500 rupees or more than 5,000 rupees became zero? Well, this is possible. It's possible. This is the bill of one of our customers. In this particular month, he's received a zero bill. That's right, a zero bill. And if you see on the bill over here, you'll see the first thing that's marked is it's a solar bill. So you can see LTD solar mentioned there. And the below box, you can actually see that he pays only the fixed charges, only 58 rupees, 57 rupees in this particular month. There are no energy charges, there are no fuel FPPCA, and there is no electricity duty. Isn't this amazing? Can I get a thumbs up if this is amazing? Awesome. And he's not the only one. There are many other customers across Goa, some 360 customers that have actually received zero bills. Now I'll tell you something about the zero bill. A zero bill is something that you get when your consumption is lesser than your generation. Okay, so when we design a plant, we design it in a way in which over the entire year, your consumption and your generation matches. Now, even if you have in a particular month your consumption slightly higher than your generation, you will only be charged at the lowest slabs. It's only when your consumption overshoots your generation by a lot will you get charged onto the higher slabs of 4.5 rupees. So I'll launch a quick poll here. So I just want to understand from you, what do you feel installing solar is about? Is it about the financial benefits that I just described to you? Or is it about the environmental benefits that I spoke to you in the start? You know, our responsibility to the unborn generation? Or is it a combination of both? Excellent. Great. A lot of responses coming in. I'm going to end the polling now. So all of you feel that it's a combination of both. It has to make financial sense, which is absolutely right, and it absolutely does. And it has to be good for the environment, which it is. There's no carbon emission, and in fact, as you saw in architect Dean D'Cruz's case, he actually over the last year is equivalent to actually growing 208 trees. So that's amazing. So the next myth that a lot of people have, especially in Goa, is, do I need a special roof for solar? You know, is my roof good enough, or do I need to upgrade or change my roof? And normally these are big obstacles to adopting solar. So let me answer those questions. So the first worry is, can my roof take the load? Okay, so when you look at it about from the load perspective, what is load? Load is nothing but, can my roof take the weight of the entire system that's going to come up on my roof? Was it designed for that? So the panels that we use are about 11 kgs per square meter. So they're very, very light. They're made of silicon material and they've got aluminum around it, which makes it extremely light on the structure. Apart from this, you've got to plan for a uniform distributed load of 100 kgs. This is purely because there will be people walking on the roof, maintaining the roof. Okay, so most roofs are designed for a UDL or a uniform distributed load of 100 kg. Most roofs require some maintenance every now and then. The last thing is the structure that is used to mount the panels. How heavy is that? So we use an aluminum T6 alloy, and this alloy weighs about 1.8 kilos for every running meter. So it's extremely lightweight. Because it's made of aluminum, it's corrosion resistant. So there's a total cumulative load of 11 plus about 13 kilos per square meter. The next worry that a lot of people have is, what about leakages? After you install the solar panels, will there be leakages in my roof? Will there be leakages in my dining room? Okay. So what we do is, we don't do any additional drilling. whatever drilling is there, and I will explain to you later how we do that. The second thing is we don't use any penetrative structures, which means that if you've got RCC or concrete roofs, we don't anchor bolt anything into your roof. We use a different technology, which I will explain to you shortly. And we ensure that, that there is no part of the slab that is exposed. So when you look at a metal sheet roofing, if you see the rails, the bolts that are actually mounted on the roof, they fall within the joint of the sheet itself. So where the sheet overlaps, where the self-tapping screws are already mounted to the purlins, the same self-tapping screw is used to mount our channels and our rails to your roof. So there's no additional holes that are being drilled into your roof. In addition to actually fixing the rail there, we also seal it for extra safety and caution. This is a site of ours in Alpine, that's here in Panjim. For a flat roof, how do you mount a system on a flat roof? The old way was to put blocks. And when you put blocks of 50 kilos each, you had a lot of load on the slab. So what we have used is, we've used a German technology, which is an aerodynamic system that is designed to withstand 50 kilometers per hour wind speed. And it looks really good as well. And with this system, we can actually install much more panels because the height of the panels is much lesser as compared to on concrete blocks. This is a system installed for a client of ours, Mr. Bartholomew in Bamboli. This is a RCC sloping roof, and you've got Mangalore tiles or clay tiles on top of that. What we've done is we've used a special adhesive from a company called Lord. It's a US-based company. They have a patent on the product. So this particular this base plate is stuck to the concrete slab, and from the base plate a channel is drawn and on which the panels are mounted. The next type of system, which is very common in Goa, is wooden rafters. And how do you mount panels on wooden rafters? So what we do here is we have a Z clamp, which you can see here, which is put with self-tapping screws onto the wooden rafter. Okay, and we don't, however, install it across all the roofs. We ensure that we have a space to stand, to clean, or to maintain the panels. Because walking on top of wooden rafters and tiles, generally results in breakage of tiles. So we either use walkways or we have to step on an RCC slab and then clean the panels. And if you don't have space on your roof, well, you can mount it on the ground. This is a project that we've done for Pfizer. It's a pharmaceutical company in Verna, where we've put hot tip galvanized structures which are corrosion resistant on the ground, and we've mounted the panels on that. Now you can do smaller structures than these to cover your car as a car shade, or to grow even things underneath the shade. A client of ours in Margao has installed a shade and has a cup of tea every day. So it can be used to park your car, to have a cup of tea. I mean, the choice is yours.
Anish, sorry for interrupting. There are a few questions in the chat window. So if you don't mind, can we take some of those questions before you move ahead?
Yeah, sure, we can go ahead.
So if any of your further slides are covering those answers, then you may defer those questions.
Yeah. Yes, do you think, should we take it at the end or we'll take it now?
I leave it to you.
Okay. I would prefer if we have the questions at the end, so that
Okay.
you can post your questions in the chat box as discussed earlier, and we'll ensure that those questions are addressed before the end of the session.
Yeah.
Because chances are that I will cover it, as we move on.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to launch a quick poll here. These were the results for the earlier one. I'm sorry, I didn't share this. Close this. Okay, so a quick poll just to see, if everyone is on the same page. On which kind of roof is it not advisable to install solar panels? Metal sheets, clay tiles, flat roof, ground, on the ground, or on asbestos sheets? A few correct answers coming in. Great. I'm going to end the polling now. So most of you got it right. Asbestos sheets are really not good for solar. It's purely because though there are clamps that you can clamp your panels on the asbestos sheets, it's extremely difficult to maintain. You step a foot on an asbestos sheet, and chances are that your foot will go through the roof. Also, asbestos sheets are really carcinogenic. So if anyone has asbestos sheets still, I would recommend you to change them, for your own health as well. So I'll move forward. The next myth that a lot of people have is, that I need to change my existing electrical wiring to plug in a solar power system. I've got a 10-year-old villa, a 20-year-old villa. I have not thought of solar power initially. I don't want too much of breaking and chipping in my house. I have all my electrical setup inside. I don't want to change my existing electrical wiring. Well, good news is that a solar on-grid system, does not require any change in electric cabling inside your house. I'll explain to you why. Solar panels will be mounted on your roof, which is external to your house. The DC cabling is also externally done. The inverter is mounted either on the terrace or in the attic or close to the meter in this priority. You'd prefer it as close to the panels as possible to reduce the losses. From the inverter, the AC cables are taken to the bidirectional meter. This is also done externally, either through ducts or through conduits. And there is no change in the incoming line from the government. And there is no change in your internal wiring as well. So because of this, we have found that over the last 600 kilowatts that we have installed, more than 200 kilowatts are for residential houses, which are all more than 5 to 6 years old. So plugging in solar power to your existing electricals is very, very easy. Okay. So this is a case of a plant that we installed for a villa in Daboli. He's an ex-Coast Guard employee, and you can see here the blue line, which is the DC cables, goes to the inverter. From the inverter, it goes straight to the meter, and all of this is actually done through conduit pipes. Okay, I've shown this for depiction over here, but it's actually running through ducts or through conduit pipes. But if people are building new houses, there are 4 tips that I would like to give you when you're building a new house. 4 things that can make integrating solar a lot easier. Okay, can I have a thumbs up if you would like to know what the 4 tips are? Great. All right. So the first tip is try to get your roof towards the south side, sloping at an angle of about 15 degrees. So if you've got your property oriented north-south, try and get as much of a south sloping roof as possible. This will improve your efficiency and increase your generation when you put solar panels. Keep a space for the inverter somewhere close to or on the terrace. All the inverters are IP rated, so you should have no problem with respect to waterproof, enclosures and things like that. Just a rainproof enclosure over the inverter, and you are fine. But just try and keep the space close to the terrace. Keep wiring provisions for the DC and for the AC cables. What do I mean by this? Lay some conduits and keep some extra conduits up to your roof, and keep some extra conduits from your roof at your meter level. This will ensure that if you are doing your wiring in a concealed manner, the solar integrator can just come in and pull the cable through the existing conduits and fix the meter and fix the panels and the inverter very easily. And keep 2 extra earthing pits. We've seen a lot of customers, after they have built their homes, they pave use pavers around their building, around their villa, or they put concrete around their villa or around their building. So before you concrete your surrounding area, I would recommend make 2 extra earthing pits. They will be useful when the solar integrator comes in and wants to plug in either. So one is for the lightning arresters and one is for the solar panels. Okay, so I'll quickly run a poll now. So this poll is: integrating solar power into your home is as easy as plugging in an inverter or a battery or a Tata Sky connection. In an inverter or a battery, you have to have internal wiring to those existing loads. In a Tata Sky connection, you just place the antenna there and wire it to the television. Excellent, a lot of answers coming in. This is a close battle. All right, I'm going to end the polling now. In 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so a lot of you all feel that it's as easy as installing an inverter and a battery. Well, I feel it's easier than that, because in an inverter and a battery, you've got to wire. If you've not already wired your appliances, you've got to actually wire your appliances. In most cases, people have already kept, because of the grid availability, which is quite bad in a lot of areas, the provision for an inverter has already been kept. So therefore, it is very easy to plug in. All right. So the next very common question that we get is, and this especially comes, during the monsoons, is my solar plant going to stop generating during the monsoons? And this is very, very frequently asked by a lot of customers across the board. So I thought, let me answer this question. So solar panels photovoltaic panels, as they are called, which generate electricity, they have something known as a low light response. Good panels come with something known as a low light response. Now, what a low light response means is that even even on an overcast day, these solar panels can still generate electricity. These solar panels require visible light and not heat. This is a very critical distinction that one needs to keep in mind. So as long as you have light, visible light that's available in the surrounding, you can generate power using these solar photovoltaic panels. And there is plenty of visible light available even in the monsoons. I'm pulling out data from a weather station in Goa. This is average data of the last 25 years. Okay, if you see here, the horizontal radiation is basically the solar radiation that's useful to be converted into electricity. So if you see from in the months of April, May, March, April, May, that's when you have your solar radiation at its peak. And it drops to its lowest in the months of June, July, and then in August and September, it starts picking up again. If you see the difference between May and June, it's roughly around 35%. Now, this is a plant of ours in Anjuna. You can see a very similar trend that's happening here. This is live data, okay? So as you can see, October, we are only halfway through, and that's the reason why it's lesser than September. This is going to cross September for sure. But you can actually notice that in May, it's at its peak. In June, July, August, it's about 35% lesser than the peak. And then it starts picking up again in the months of September, October, November, and December. The plant was installed in the middle of January, and that's why you can see a slightly lower generation in January. So, did a lot of you have this question? Did a lot of you feel this way? Can I have a thumbs up if you felt that solar panels could not generate power in the monsoons? And if you're convinced now. Excellent, great. So I'm going to launch a quick poll now. This is to check a little bit of GK. Okay, which country ranks highest? Okay, ranks highest in cumulative solar capacity. That means which of these countries has the highest solar installations, highest solar capacity? A lot of answers coming in. Great. I can see a trend here. There's a tough fight between two options. Excellent. I'm keeping this on for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Ending the poll. China, 40. So 47% of you thought it was China, 24% thought it was Germany. Let us see what the right answer is. So you're absolutely right. China has 205 gigawatts of solar power as on 2019. Okay, USA comes next with 62 gigawatts. Next is Japan with 61 gigawatts. And then is Germany with 49 gigawatts. And in 5th place comes India with 32 gigawatts. Okay, so if you look at the countries actually that are above us, you look at USA and Germany, fairly cloudy, cold climates. USA, of course, is a much larger terrain, so they've got, a combination of sunny areas like Arizona and, cloudy and snowy areas, but predominantly a lot of cold, cloudy areas. Even in China, you've got a lot of cloud cover. In Japan, very well known for the floods and for the monsoons. So despite that, they have installed solar, solar in such a big way. So I think that there is, they have seen some value in it, and therefore they're preferring to use solar, over other sources of energy. And India is very, very quickly catching up. The next myth that we have is, well, you talk about payback of 7 years. Will my solar plant last for 7 years? Well, your solar plant lasts, or your solar plant will last until my hair turns gray. And I'm sure about that. I'm sure about that because the panels that we use come with a 25-year performance warranty. What this means is that the panels cannot drop below 90% of its rated output for the first 10 years and not less than 80% of its rated output up till the 25th year. All the panels that we use undergo salinity corrosion test, which makes it suitable for installation in Goa. And all of these have been tested for hailstone tests, which basically make them very rugged and very, very resistant to small minor cracks due to a few light objects falling on them. The hailstone test is done by dropping a golf ball at a particular distance from the panel, and the glass should not shatter. On the inverter side, which is the other major component of the system, the inverters come with warranties ranging from 5 years right up to 20 years. And the reason why these warranties can be given is because there are no moving parts in the inverter. All these inverters are IP rated. IP is ingress protection, which means that a lot of these inverters are you can mount them externally outside, and therefore they are resistant to dust or water or humidity entering into these inverters and spoiling the circuitry. And since, as I mentioned, there are no moving parts, there's very low maintenance and there's a very, very long life for these inverters. The batteries, on the other hand, come with a 5-year warranty. And there are maintenance-free models available as well, where you don't have to top up the batteries, very frequently. However, in battery-based systems, you should be looking at replacing the batteries once every 5 years, 5 or 6 years. And when you have to replace even one battery, you have to replace the entire bank. And that makes battery storage a little bit expensive as compared to the on-grid versions. The next myth that people have is it's very difficult to maintain my solar plant. So I'm going to launch a quick poll here. So, which of the two has a longer life and is less expensive to maintain? A, car, or B, solar power system? Okay, I think all of you all get the drift here. Unanimously voting in favor of the solar system. Excellent. I'm ending the polling now. 3, 2, 1. So all of you feel that the solar power system has a longer life and is also less expensive to maintain. So this is a system in Naveli. The maintenance, basically entails of a quarterly cleaning of the panels, which is something that Sun 360, we have a maintenance team that moves around and does the cleaning of these panels. Also, along with the cleaning of the panels, we do an electrical and structural inspection. This is to ensure that the system is stable and can withstand all the forces of the elements over the 25-year period. Apart from this, all our systems also come with a remote monitoring system. A remote monitoring app or a web application basically ensures that the performance of your plant is extremely transparent. You can see what you're generating, you can see what you're consuming, and therefore you know exactly how well your system is doing. All of this is available to you at your fingertips, And this system does not just help you, it helps us as well. And we can actually do some proactive maintenance if we see that your system is underperforming or that your system is down for a particular period of time. We monitor all our plants on a monthly basis. So drawing the parallel between your car and a solar plant, I'm taking these two comparisons because typically everyone owns a car and the investment value is almost similar. Sometimes the solar plant is cheaper, but it's in line. So point number one is there are no moving parts and no wear and tear in solar panels. Whereas in a car, it requires regular servicing and there are high maintenance costs. A car would typically cost you about 20,000 rupees to maintain per annum. Whereas if you saw in the case of Eddy, the system just took about 7,000 rupees a year. Solar panels run on freely available sunlight, whereas cars run on expensive petrol and diesel. Panels require cleaning once in a quarter. A car typically gets washed once every week. So you're absolutely right in stating that maintaining your solar panels is far, far easier than maintaining your car. So before we move on to the very interesting part, which is the secret that I was going to tell you that nobody knows of in the solar circle, I would like to launch a feedback form. Okay, so if Shruti, if you can just share the feedback form on the chat group, please.
Sure, sir.
If you all can just click on that feedback form. Yeah. Just click on the feedback form and just fill up this. This form is purely meant to understand, if you would like to know more about how you can integrate a solar plant, get a zero electricity bill, or reduce your electricity consumption, implement solar, you can actually just fill up the feedback form. We would be happy to help you out, even offline after the meeting gets over. So in a lot of these, in a lot of these cases, we can actually, with some minimal information, we can actually, and without a site visit, we can actually tell you what the estimate would be to install a solar plant. So all of this information can be very, very helpful to help us give an estimate or an assessment to you. And this assessment is free of cost. Once we give you the estimate, you can actually understand what is the potential of your roof, how much you can generate, how much you can save, and what benefits you can get from the government and things like that. As I mentioned to you earlier, it's going to be different for each and every one of you. So what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and give you a customized report at the end of this meeting if you are interested in knowing more about how you can install solar. Gary, how many responses do we have in right now?
We have around 8 responses so far, so and they are currently underway as well as we speak.
Okay, thanks, Gary. So I'll just give another few seconds and then we'll move on.
I did not get access to the feedback form.
Shruti, can you share the link again?
Sure, sir.
I have pasted it again on the chat window.
I shall allow you all to fill up the feedback form in due course of time. I'll also send this to you all separately. So let's move forward. Shruti, can you ensure that somebody is able to annotate on the screen?
Sure, sir.
So if you're done with the feedback form, let's move forward. I'm going to tell you now about a very interesting concept of which has not been discussed, at least that I know of, a comparison between solar and a fixed deposit. Okay, we get a lot of questions from customers that what if I just take the same money and park it in a fixed deposit? Wouldn't that be a better utilization of my capital? Well, let's start off first with the solar plant. Shruti, can you mute everyone, please?
Sure, sir.
Okay. So let's start off with the solar plant. I'll take the same example that we had taken of Mr. Eddy, and this is for billing between 1,000 to 2,500 rupees. If you, Mr. Eddy saved 38,000 rupees for a 3.8 lakh investment. And the AMC was about 7,000 rupees, which we have taken, increasing at about 5% every year. Now, if you put all the savings minus the AMC cost into a fixed deposit at 5.5% interest per annum, at the end of 25 years, you get a figure of about 25.4 lakhs. Now, if you put the same 3.8 lakhs in a fixed deposit, you get about 12.7 lakhs at the end of 25 years, compounding the interest every year. Okay, so as you can see, there's almost 100% increase in return when you put it on a solar plant and reinvest the savings into a fixed deposit. Now, one gentleman the other day told me that, you know what, fixed deposits are a thing of the past. People don't invest in fixed deposits anymore. I put my money in mutual funds. So I ran the numbers for mutual funds, and he said that I get 12% on an average from mutual funds. So the same 3.8 lakh rupees becomes 49.35 lakhs at the end of 25 years with a mutual fund. If you reinvest the same savings into a mutual fund at 12% rate of interest, you get about 60.4 lakh rupees. That's an increase of about 22%. So isn't this amazing? I mean, give me a thumbs up if you found this really interesting. So this is something that not too many people know of, but if you compare solar versus fixed deposits and mutual funds, you're actually much better off reinvesting your savings from a solar plant in the said instruments. You'll get much more than what you were to put the capital cost directly into the instrument. And at the same time, you're doing something good for the environment as well. So your wallet and the environment is benefited by it. So with this, I would like to end this this webinar. We can right now, actually, before we open for Q&A, do we have can we have a group photo first before we go on to Q&A? So if I can request everyone to just turn your cameras on. And then we'll open into Q&A. All right, that's great. It's nice to see all the faces, after the presentation. Excellent. So if we can have a quick thumbs up in front of the screen, if you like what has been shared so far. Superb. Great, great. Okay. Do we have, Shruti, do we have any customers here today? I think Mr. Bartholomew is here.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So before we, we open up to questions, I would just like, one of our customers to also just explain what his experience was with solar. What was your experience with solar? Not Sun 360, just the technology and solar. And what benefits have you got so far?
Well, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes. Besides, the wonderful service provided by your company, this has opened my, my, what do you call this, the view of environment protection as well. Because when I look at the daily what I have achieved since the 28th of March. So I think it is 28th March. Okay, 28th of April, when the system was commissioned. I have saved a reduction of 3.17 tons of carbon dioxide and planted virtually 174 trees and had a coal saving of 1.28 tons, which is extraordinary for a small plant like mine. So, so this is something which I had never imagined that I would contribute in a small. It's like a drop in the ocean, but every drop fills a bucket. So this is it has been a great experience, and I'm looking forward to the new summer season to really experience or utilize the power plant.
Excellent. Thank you so much, sir. Thanks for your feedback on the technology. I would like to now, we can open up for questions. So if you have any questions, I think we can take them now.
Yeah, Anish, you can start reading the questions from the chat window.
Yeah. Shruti, can you take up a question one by one?
Sure, sir. So I'm taking this first question from Gleason Fernandez, who asks, can we install the panels on a carport that's 20 feet across 18 feet in area, thereby eliminating the need of a roof altogether?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have actually done a system like this in Verna, okay, where they have converted their carport, as I showed you in the image, converted their carport using solar panels as the roof. So I would request you to, please fill up the feedback form and drop in your number, and we would be happy to give you, an estimate of how that can be done, and a drawing, a detailed drawing, as well as how that can be done. Thank you. Shruti, next question.
All right. The next question is from Eric. So he has got a couple of questions. I'll go one by one, starting with the first one. That is, what is the subsidy percentage of the capital cost?
So the subsidy percentage currently is 50% on the benchmark rate. Okay. The benchmark rate has recently been revised by the government. It starts from about 47 rupees for a 1 kilowatt plant, and then it goes down to 43 rupees, 41 rupees, 41 rupees for up to a 10 kilowatt plant, and more than 10 kilowatts it's about 38 rupees. So based on the benchmark rate, you multiply that benchmark rate with 50% and multiply the 50% with your plant capacity. Now your plant capacity is the lesser of the two, lesser of either the inverter capacity or the solar panel capacity. So let's assume if you have a 7 kilowatt inverter and an 8 kilowatt panel, you can basically, your subsidy will be 50% into 7 kilowatts into 41,000, which is the benchmark rate of that particular capacity. Going forward, the government is proposing to have two parts of this, the central subsidy as well as the state subsidy. This will come into force in some time. So the central subsidy will be for the first 3 kilowatts, you will get 40%. For the next, next 7 kilowatts, you will get 20%. And the state then gives, a 20% subsidy across, over and above that. In the current case, you're getting 50% across the entire capacity. Can we
All
have?
right.
How
His
does
next.
that, can I say something, please?
Yeah, sure.
How does
Sure,
that,
sir. Please go ahead.
yeah, how does the government rate and your rate, how do they match or do they differ? Your rate is equal to or more or something like that? What's it?
So from the latest benchmark rates, the 0 to 10 kilowatt range is quite different from the actual market rate. And that's because of various processes that the government has followed. Because let's say, for example, a 1 kilowatt plant is about 47,000 rupees. Now that's impossible in Goa because just the meter itself will cost you 15,000 rupees. And so the plant is definitely much more than 47,000 rupees. So for the smaller plants, there is a big difference in the benchmark rate and the market rate. But as the plant starts getting bigger in size, the gap reduces. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. His next question is, what about solar roof sheets? Are they a replacement to asbestos sheets?
Right. So solar roof sheets, I don't know what exactly are you terming by this. Can you add some more detail to the question?
Yeah, what I've noticed is that you are installing solar panels, but there is something called solar sheets, which are a replacement to the Tata sheet or the asbestos sheet actually.
Yes.
I only use that asbestos as an example because as you said, you can't install it. People also, it's a health issue. So people can remove those sheets and just put solar sheets directly, no?
Yeah, absolutely. So
As a replacement.
yeah, absolutely. So if you've been following the news, Tesla launched, these solar tiles. So solar tiles can be directly integrated into your roof.
There are also solar sheets, no, which are not small tiles.
Yeah, there are also something known as solar shingles. These solar shingles can be pasted on top of your RCC slab. So all these options are available. Of course, with if they are not mass produced, typically the cost is higher. So shingles and solar tiles are much higher in cost as compared to a typical solar PV panel. But it's available. We do have foldable sheets, shingles as well. The next.
All right. His next question is, what is the cost per kilowatt?
Okay. So,
I think that has been answered, no?
yeah, I think that has been answered.
All right.
Yes.
So
Just to touch upon
yeah,
it.
his last question is, what about
the cost per kilowatt will vary depending on the scale of the plant. Okay, so it is customized based on the scale of the plant. Yeah,
No,
sure.
I've been looking at a 750 kW plant, actually, or that's what I want to look at shortly. So I may be in touch with you.
Sure.
Yeah.
I request you to please fill in your details in the form. So
Yeah, I have already done that. Yes.
thank you so much. Shruti, next question.
all right. His last question is, what about lithium battery having 20-year lifespan?
Yeah. So lithium batteries are available. A lot of the Indian manufacturers are not giving such long-term warranties, but definitely they have got more cycles as compared to traditional lithium lead acid batteries. Okay, so it's possible to install lithium batteries, in your premises. The cost is still a little bit higher, so probably in the next couple of years, I think the cost would come down. The good thing about lithium batteries is that you can discharge it far more as compared to lead acid batteries. So lead acid batteries typically can be discharged just about 50% or 60% of their capacity. Lithium batteries, you can actually go to about 95%, even 95% of their total capacity. So what that means is a smaller battery bank as compared to a lithium battery source, as compared to a lead acid battery source. But the cost is still quite high.
Yeah, the cost is around 15,000 a kW at the moment, I think.
Right. Shruti, next question.
All right. Hope that answers your question, sir. I'm moving to the next question by Frederick Vaz, who is asking, can a wood and Mangalore tile roof be suitable for solar?
Yeah, so as I showed you in the presentation earlier, you can install solar panels on a wood and a Mangalore tile roof. The only thing is that you need to ensure that you can maintain it, off the roof. So that would be either if you have an RCC slab close to the roof, or if you can erect, a ladder close to the roof and then clean the panels. It can be done. You can walk on the tiles as well, but there are huge chances of breakage, and if the rafters are not of the right size, or if they are a little bit weak, that could be potentially dangerous, because we've got to do maintenance every quarter. So you've got to take care of the maintenance aspect as well.
All right. I'm moving to the next question from Joseph De Silva, who asks, how good is a solar panel as a heat insulator? And also, what are the likely ways that this system can get damaged?
Oh, that's a great question. So a lot of customers actually are installing solar panels to insulate themselves, especially the top slab from additional heat. Now, a solar panel basically absorbs some amount of sunlight and reflects, some amount of sunlight. What it does is the heat that is dissipated on the slab reduces in comparison to any other roofing material, including tiles that you can use. We also keep gaps between the panels that ensure that the hot air, that's stuck underneath the panels can escape out. Okay, so thereby keeping the slab even cooler. So it definitely will help to bring down the cooling load of your room where the solar panels are installed. On the second question of how can a panel be damaged? Well, a panel can be damaged, let's say if a coconut falls on it, or if it is in the landing zone of monkeys. So we always look at where the nearest tree is, and according to that we would put the panels. It's okay if monkeys walk on them, but if they're landing on the panels, it could potentially break the glass. Okay, so those are two ways in which it can break. the other thing is, if somebody throws a stone, and of course it will break because it's glass at the end of the day.
All right. Since you mentioned about the monkey menace, Charles Fernandez as well as Noel Rodriguez also have this question. What about monkey menace? And Noel says his farm has monkeys jumping on roofs. So how can we secure panels?
So as I mentioned, I mean, a good assessment, when you do a good site assessment, you should ensure that your panels are not in the landing zone. So as long as they're not in the landing zone, you're okay. It's all right if they walk on them. It's not a problem.
All right. I hope that explanation has resolved your queries with respect to monkey menace. I'm moving to the next question from Yash Gante, who asks, can the panels fly away when there are strong winds, like in the case of a storm?
It's a great question. And, going by the recent weather that we've had, I think that's a very relevant question. So all the structures that we install, they are rated for 150 kilometers per hour wind speed. We can also, increase the rating to 200 kilometers per hour, but MNRE, which is Ministry of New and Renewable Energy, mandates that your structures should be designed for 150 kilometers per hour wind speed. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, thanks.
All right. I'm moving to the next question from Divakar Posnaik. He asks, if I install solar panels on my current roof and later if I construct another roof, so will shifting of panels be feasible or possible, and how much will it cost?
Right. So the great thing about solar is it's an immovable property. You can unscrew the structure, unscrew the panels, and move them to a different location, either on the new roof that you will build or to a different premise. So movement of panels, installation, reinstallation of panels is very, very easy and can easily be done. The cost of installation will depend on the size of the plant. So depending on what scale, how many panels are there, according to that, the cost would vary.
All right. I hope that convinces you, Divakar. Any other queries? In case, please unmute yourselves and pose the question. I'm moving ahead to the next question now from Gauri Salelkar, who asks, can a flat owner use the solar system for their particular flat in the building?
Yes, it's possible, but it's highly improbable. The reason why I'm saying this is because, typically a flat owner does not have a roof space demarcated for that particular flat owner. There are a few cases, however, like we've done, a case in Mayflower Enclave in Old Goa, where the builder has kept a particular area for a flat owner, and that person can use that area as the owner deems fit. So if that's the case, yes, you can install and it can reduce your electricity bill. If that's not the case, then what you can do is, as a society, you can come together and install solar panels that can reduce the electricity consumption of your common meter. So if you saw the slide that I did on Alcan, this is a project for Alcan Estrella in Tonka. And there, basically what happens is, it is connected, there's a 15 kilowatt plant connected to the common meter. And all the lifts, the pumps, the lights, etc., the bill gets knocked off by the solar plant. I hope that answers your question, Gauri.
Okay. I'm now moving to Dennis Coelho's question. He asks, what is the environmental impact from the disposal of the batteries at the end of the 5-year cycle?
Right, that's a very, very pertinent question, because batteries come not only from solar, but they also come from your inverter systems and a lot of the UPS backup systems. Now, if batteries are disposed correctly, that is, if they are given back to the right source, they get recycled in a proper way. So I'll give you an example. We use batteries from Exide. Exide pays you slightly lesser as compared to your local Ratiwala. Okay, but they dispose of the batteries in a very proper way. They'll dispose of the acid correctly, because if the acid is thrown into the ground, that can contaminate the soil as well as the groundwater. And then they remove the lead and they repurpose the lead. So the point here is that you need to ensure that it goes back to the right source. If it goes back to the right source, to the right manufacturer, you can be rest assured that they'll be taken care of. The recycling will be done properly. Do not give your batteries to the local Ratiwala, even if he's giving you 500 rupees extra, because it's just going to land up in a landfill.
All right. Moving to the next question from one of the participant who asks, do you also install SolarEdge systems?
Yes, we do. In fact, the system that I showed you in Anjuna, that generation, it's a SolarEdge plant. SolarEdge is, I mean, it's a great product, and especially very good for Goa, because you can install panels in different orientations and still get a very good output. In addition to that, if you install a large number of panels, you can actually monitor the performance of each and every panel at a panel level. So, you can actually state that which panel is performing and which panel is underperforming just at a click of a button, which is fantastic for the owner as well as for the installer.
All right. He also asks, what about future expandability?
Okay, so what we normally do, in case of, there are two ways in which you can tackle future expansion of your solar plant. One is you install something that's just right for you now, and then you install a similar plant or a differently sized plant depending on your consumption in the future. The second way is you install an inverter of a slightly higher capacity right now, keeping in mind future expansion, and install panels only of the current consumption. And as and when your consumption increases, you connect an additional set of panels to the inverter. This requires a little bit of design, because the panels that are available now and the panels that are available in the future will be of different wattages. So it requires a little bit of design to ensure that even if different wattages are available in the future, it does not have any negative impact on the overall performance of the plant. I must add here though, if you are going in for an on-grid system, you will have to do the paperwork 2 times. Once when you're doing the initial installation and once when you're doing the expansion, because you have got sanction for a particular capacity only.
All right. I'm taking up another question from Charles Fernandez, who is asking with respect to the cost of AMC and also what would be the inverter battery costs.
Okay, AMC, if you have quarterly cleaning of the panels, electrical inspection, and structural inspection, and we also provide reports every quarter. If you take that particular package, it's about 2% of your capex. Okay, whatever your capex is, 2% of that per annum. If you're going to do cleaning on your own, and we can help you, understand how to do that, we can even give you equipment to clean your panels, then the cost would come down significantly. Okay. What is the next question, Shruti, apart from AMC?
What would be the inverter and battery cost?
Okay, this again depends from based on the size of the plant. Yeah, so it could vary from X to Y. Depends purely on the size of the plant.
All right. I'm moving now to Gabriela De Cruz's questions. The first question is, what are the incentives given by the government for solar in Goa?
Okay, So the incentives are, as I mentioned earlier, the subsidy is one of the incentives that the government gives. This is, done by the central as well as the state government. Apart from that, if you are a business, the government actually has something known as an accelerated depreciation benefit, wherein as per the Income Tax Act, you can depreciate the entire plant within 3 years in the ratio of 40-40-20. In this way, you can actually save a lot of money in taxes.
Right. His
And,
next question is,
Shruti, one more point I would like to add here is the government also signs with you a power purchase agreement, okay, which basically makes you a legal prosumer with the government. That means whatever you are generating and exporting, the government is legally bound to take that power back for the next 25 years. So if you sign up right now, okay, you can square off your units with the government for the next 25 years. The government can't change that. So that's another incentive that the government is offering to allow you to install a system without any battery banks, to use basically the grid as a virtual storage. Okay, the government also is offering you something known as a group metering, as I told you earlier, where you can install panels in one location and you can offset your consumption in any other location across Goa wherever the meter name is the same. So that's something excellent that you can do that many states don't have. So Goa is quite lucky in the sense that they have that, and the billing system works perfectly. Shruti, can we move to the next question, please?
sure, sir. His next question is, what is your opinion on the proposed coal-powered 400 kV transmission line coming into Goa? Can we instead generate some of this power through rooftop solar?
Right. So, I mean, I can tell you what the government stake is. The government stake is, if you want power at cheap rates, at highly subsidized rates, and Goa's power rates are very, very subsidized, then you have to have the infrastructure to move the power in from other states to Goa. And one of the projects that they have put up is this particular project. Now, I don't know the details of it or whether a different route was possible or not. I'm not privy to that information. But infrastructure has to be set up to wheel power in because of the situation that we are in today. We don't have any power generation within the state. And therefore, the second part of your question, which is, can we generate our own power and therefore become self-sufficient, is extremely important and very, very correct. If we as a state are able to become self-sufficient, at least we can reduce the load that we are, or reduce the amount or the quantum of electricity that we are drawing from the neighboring states. Not only that, the government is losing 18%, roughly around 17 to 18% of power when they are transmitting, power across state lines. That can also get reduced by having decentralized power systems like rooftop solar.
All right. And his last question is, do you think that improving or incentivizing the solar industry in Goa can help young people get jobs as solar technicians?
Oh, absolutely. We've been actually, the solar industry is, a sunrise industry. It is where computers, was maybe, 15, 20 years back. It's at the cusp of a revolution. And you can see the number of jobs that are being created, not just, on the technician side, but also on the engineering side. We have, some fantastic engineers working for us at Sun 360. And all of these engineers are basically produced by local engineering colleges, and so these are basically areas of potential employment. It can be within the industry, in R&D, in design, as well as in the installation. And I'm really happy to share with you guys that, 3-4 years back, we had made a representation to Director of Technical Education, requesting for a course to be created. And, a couple of years back, they actually created an ITI course in Bicholim for solar technicians. And I'm given to understand that a few more such courses will be set up across the state. So that's also the education institutes responding to a huge potential job market.
All right. We have one more question from Noel Fernandez, who's asking you to tell us something that maybe you don't want to tell us, but maybe you're currently working on.
I don't know. I mean, that's a very cryptic question. So I'm going to give you a very cryptic answer. I have no idea.
Hello, Anish, can you hear me?
Yes, Noel.
Yeah, Anish, thanks for this presentation. It was really very informative. My question to you is regarding the savings you have mentioned, when I just want to talk about the total life cycle costing of the whole installation. What you have mentioned is only around 7,000 charges of yours, right, per annum. Now, if you see the total grid, the panel comes with 25 years warranty, the battery comes with 5 years, and the inverter comes, whatever the equipments come with different type of warranty, right? So now for me to replace a battery after 5 years, I need to replace it 5 times, right, for the whole 25-year period. Yeah, and second thing is like a lot of guys came with the questions of like, the monkey mans and the Goan houses, right? So you have trees, the neighboring trees, coconut, the mango trees. Like, do any insurance companies cover? I mean, do you have to insure the whole solar panels, or the whole installation? Wherein, if yes, then you have that cost as well as part of your. Because normally the government electricity, you don't have to insure it, right? Yeah, you just lodge a complaint at the panchayat level, and I mean they fix it for you, right? So the whole figure that you gave me, I mean, is it inclusive of taking of all the other risks, like changing the battery, or 25 is a long term, right? So there'll be more efficiency in the new panels. They might be much more smaller, or much more IP rated to a much further IP rating. They can stand much more rigorous type of environment. So that was my question. The saving that you mentioned looks nice, but is it really practical over the whole time, or I mean, or is the cost really going to increase, and then we are not going to end up with the savings that you mentioned?
Sure. So great question, Noel. Thank you for that question. It helps me delve a little bit deeper into the numbers. So basically, what I've considered there is an on-grid system. Okay. The moment you have batteries, okay, if it's a hybrid system or if it's an off-grid system, the moment you have batteries, this entire calculation goes for a 6. All right. So if you are installing a hybrid system, the payback is going to be much more than this, and it's really not then a function of do you want to recover the cost. So for example, the gentleman, Leo gentleman, he's not looking at payback. He's purely looking at, can it protect my equipment, because my equipment is worth 3 or 4 lakh rupees, or maybe more, 10 lakh rupees. Can I get uninterrupted power supply? So those are the things that he's actually looking for. So hybrid systems, the payback does not hold. In this particular calculation, I have considered the AMC of 7,000 escalating at 5% every year to take into account inflation. I have also considered 2 replacements of inverters over the period of 25 years. Now, it might not fail 2 times, it might fail just once, but I've considered that to be on the conservative side. As far as the technology improvement is concerned, typically what will happen is, let's say you're absolutely right that the technology will improve. Okay, the panels will get more efficient, but let's say at year 15 or at year 20, you are going to do a cost benefit analysis and say, okay, does it make sense for me to kind of get rid of all my panels and put new panels and get a higher efficiency, will I save that much more in my electricity cost as compared to what I'm paying to refurbish the entire plant? That's a call that you will take closer to the time when it tips in the favor of upgrading the technology. So I have run these numbers considering that you maintain the same panels, the same technology over the period of 25 years. And I have also degraded the panels at 1% every year because the cells, as I mentioned to you, up to 80% of the rated output up till 25th year. So I have degraded the generation by 1% every year up to the 25th year. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, Anish, thanks for that. And another one was, do you have to insure the whole solar installation, or what does the company?
Yeah, so solar panels, there are specific general insurance available for solar panels, and we can help connect you to the right companies to get this done. Many of our customers have done it. This does not cover breakage, but it covers, acts of God, like, floods and earthquakes and things like that, and fire and things.
Thanks for that, Anish. Another thing I have, if you see Goan houses, you have these stabilizers everywhere, right? You have for the TV and for the fridge and for all these voltage fluctuations, right? So with this type of a setup, I mean, can people eliminate all these things and have a stress-free type of, most of the people, you have the best of TV, you have the best of fridge, and then you don't want that headache of this voltage fluctuation, right? So does this help to eliminate all these stabilizers now, or?
Right. So a hybrid system actually can potentially do that. The reason being because in a hybrid system, you set a minimum and maximum voltage. If the voltage drops below that minimum voltage or spikes above the maximum voltage, the system goes into the battery mode. And when it goes into the battery mode, it will supply conditioned power at 230 volts to your appliances. Okay, so you can do that with a hybrid system. Another way of doing it is using centralized AVRs. Okay, so you can also use synthetic voltage regulators and do the same thing.
Okay. And one of the another issues I have, is the after sales support. The technical support. Everyone sells the product very well, and then later on, once maybe it's AC or a fridge, and then you have to run about. How do you rate Sun 360? From 1 to 5. I mean, 1 being the best.
Yeah. So of course,
I want you to be true to answer. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah. So of course, I would be, the answer coming from me would be a little bit. Partial, but so that's the reason why I had Mr. Bartholomew speak about the system as well, and I think he mentioned that he is happy with the service. We are constantly improving. It's not that we are we are absolutely spot on, but we are constantly improving. We constantly strive to do a better job at every site, and we've streamlined a lot of systems in place. So this is not a one, this is not run by one person and just by me. It's run by a team of very dedicated, very passionate engineers, and there are systems and processes in place that ensure that we can deliver that consistently. And that's the reason why a lot of our customers refer us to others, and that's our business model basically. Right.
Thanks, Anish.
Thank you, Noel. One question from Tushar Naik. So he asked us a question saying that which is advantageous, grid interactive as opposed to hybrid solar. So as I mentioned earlier, if you're looking purely in terms of cost benefit, financial feasibility, a hybrid solar plant does not give you your that bang for your money. So let me back this up a little bit. In which cases would you use a hybrid plant? So you would use a hybrid plant basically in places where your grid is very, very unstable. Okay, where your grid keeps failing all the time. Because in these cases, you would end up utilizing your solar panels very, very inefficiently if you were to go for an on-grid system. So in cases where your power keeps going off very frequently, a hybrid solar plant is definitely very advantageous because the panels will continue charging the batteries. If your power is fairly stable and you're having 5, 10, 15-minute outages every now and then I would suggest using a combination of on-grid plus a home inverter or a home UPS system. The home UPS system takes care of those backup loads, and the on-grid system basically reduces your overall electricity consumption. So with this particular combination, it becomes far more cost-effective and far easier to maintain. And the battery bank also gets much smaller because you don't have to match your battery bank to the size of the panels, as you would have to do with a hybrid system. I hope that answers your question, Mr. Tushar.
Yes, thanks, Anish.
Thank you. Shruti, do we have some questions?
Hello, Anish. Noel here again.
Yes,
Anish, from your current customers, what is the number one problem they have? I mean, if you see, like the frequent problem, like like most of the customers have come back with, like if you have around 20 of them, 20, like if 10 came back with the same problem, like.
You're saying before they install solar or after they install solar?
After installation, maybe within 2 months or 3 months or like 5 months, whatever. I mean, you might be knowing like this is a frequent problem they're coming with. I mean, is it?
Yeah. The most frequent problem that I have encountered is fluctuation of the voltage. So when the voltage fluctuates too much, the on-grid system cannot perform very well. So let's say if the system has to synchronize itself with the grid at 190 volts, it is not as efficient as when it has to synchronize at 230 volts. So I think availability of stable power is one of the biggest complaints that I have received, after the solar plant is installed. We have made various representations to the department to ensure that certain avoidable issues can be prevented. Like for example, sometimes in one particular case there was a loose fuse on the transformer box. So the moment we put in an application, the great thing about the solar plant is it logs each and every data point. So when you have that entire log, you can actually go to the department and say, on this day, at this time to this time, you supplied me voltage, at let's say 270 volts. Okay, and this is not safe for my equipment. Can you do something about it? And the department has proactively taken measures to fix at least what they can fix, which is maybe loose neutral or loose fuses on the transformer side, and thereby improve power quality in various areas. In few areas where it was not possible for them to do, they have even changed the transformers to ensure that the generation is boosted up. Please keep in mind that we are doing the government also a huge favor by installing solar plants. This is because the central government has a mandate for the state government to procure a minimum of 8% of the total power requirement from renewable energies, including solar power, solar plants. And the government is way below that mandate right now. So, by us generating or injecting more power into the grid, the government is able to reach their targets to the center. So therefore, they are more incentivized to ensure that your generation picks up.
Thanks, Anish, for that.
Thank you. Any other questions, Shruti?
Yes, we have one more from Avi. He asks, if you were to invest 3.7 lakhs as the base investment, what does it really cover? Assume this is a pure intention to reduce your own electricity bills. And if you want to feed back into the government grid, what are the extra costs involved and any specific equipment back into the government grid?
Okay. So this 3.7 lakhs basically covers the entire plant, including paperwork with the government, your subsidy paperwork, the cost of the meter, the cost of the cables, everything is included. It's a turnkey job. Okay. And what you can save at current prices, you can save roughly around 38,000 rupees per annum.
Okay, thanks, Anish. So really quickly, and apologies if this is already covered. I'm obviously a little new to the whole idea of solar panels, etc. I obviously understand the renewable source of energy, etc. But in terms of the cost and then how it's beneficial, and then over time how you would actually derive the cost savings. I'm just trying to understand what kind of equipment would be required. I mean, in terms of, I don't know what it entails. So if you could say 3.7 turnkey end-to-end solution, is it like certain number of panels? Is it because I'm very new to the whole concept, so apologies.
No problem. So I'll just quickly, kind of recap. It's a 5.8 kilowatt plant, which means you would roughly have about 17, 18 panels installed. You have an inverter, which can also deliver the same output. So a 6 kilowatt or a 5 kilowatt inverter would be installed. You have cables coming from the panels to the inverter, as well as from the inverter out to the meter. You have the cost of the meter. You've got lightning arresters that are actually mounted on the buildings that protect your equipment from lightning strikes, and that can be grounded and separately earthed. So there are earthing pits also that are included within this cost, as well as the paperwork with the government and all of the other things. And we provide the first year, the maintenance is provided within the cost. In that first year, the idea is to try and, if at all somebody can be trained on site, we train them on how to clean the panels and how to maintain the system. If that's not available, we have our maintenance team that then comes in from year 2 and takes over the maintenance.
Brilliant. And just a quick one. We've spoken about, the ability to have like an app.
I'm sorry, I lost you there.
The ability to have your real-time instrumentation of your data statistics. It tells you how it's been performing, what kind of power has been generated, what kind of fluctuations you've had from the grid, the government grid, etc. So how exactly does one track this? I mean, is it an internet-based app, or is it like you got to plug something into your systems to check your stats? How do you?
Yeah. So it's purely internet based. Okay. You can also plug your device in and download the data, but it's made as user friendly as possible. You can view the data on your app, on your phone, on an app, as well as on your laptop, on a web application. So it's very, very easy, very intuitive. You can draw periodic reports, and set that to come to your mailbox every month.
But you'll have to be beaming off this data somewhere, right? You'll have to be connecting your device to like a Wi-Fi network of sorts, and
yeah. So you have to connect your inverter to a Wi-Fi device or
right.
to a dongle, through a SIM
makes sense.
GPRS kind of a connection, and then you beam that data to your device.
Excellent. Thanks very much for that clarity.
Thank you, Avinash.
Yes, sir. I think those were the questions.
Do we have time for any further questions? Yes.
Actually, the questions were very good, and you have given complete and detailed responses. So I think others can raise further questions over email, and you have already shared your email. If you can type your email in the chat window, that will help again. Shruti, can you do that, please?
Sure.
Yeah. It has been a very informative session. All the participants and the entire audience, I would like to thank Anish and the entire Sun 360 team for this session. I'm sure after this session, we will see a lot more solar power generation in Goa. And hopefully, we will take care of all our energy needs over time. On behalf of AFA again, I would like to thank the entire team. Thanks again, Anish.
Yeah. You can take a photo of this if you've already taken down. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Yash. Thanks for organizing this. And thanks to everyone for attending the session today. You guys have been extremely interactive. A lot of very nice questions. And really happy to be interacting with you all on this Sunday. Thank you so much, guys.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Anish. Bye.
Bye now.
Anish, bye.
Thanks, Anish. It was nice, informative.
Thank you, Gauri. Thanks for joining in.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye, Yash.